Hello and welcome. In this video, I am going to do a micro ATX build with Jonsbo C6. Given the fact that this is a 20 liters case, I don't foresee any big problems. The original C6 wasn't quite friendly to build though, due to CPU cooler height as well as GPU length restrictions. Such problems do not apply for this Max case. If there is anything that C6 has it better than others is the toolless method of opening up. It's so easy to open the case up. There is something to note here. Jonsbo wants you to install one motherboard standoff manually. This specific hole for micro ATX motherboard is not always used. They didn't install this for you since it has a chance to short a motherboard if it doesn't use this standoff location. It's pretty rare but does happen. Jonsbo cases have this feature where front panel header wires are grouped together as a one connector, making it very easy for you to do this. This also means if your motherboard happens to use a non-standard front header pin layout, you cannot use this case. But it's extremely rare and happens usually only to server motherboards. Pretty standard stuff so far. I just need to install a power supply, add some fans, and it will be done. Speaking of power supplies, I am going to use a SFX power supply here. Since this case is on a bigger side, using a standard ATX power supply is perfectly viable. However, this case has no cable management feature. It's best to reduce cables, and SFX power supplies have shorter cables, not to mention a significant volume reduction for the power supply unit itself. Originally, this was the direction I wanted the power supply to have, so that it will draw air from outside and remain isolated. Unfortunately, due to the way the power cable worked, I had to flip it. Now, let's talk about the top bit. Like I said in the unboxing video, it's not possible to install two 120mm fans, but it is possible to install two 92mm fans. There is a benefit of using 92mm fans here. With a 120mm fan, it gets in way for the power cable and other cables. With one or two 92mm fan, it gives some leeway for cables to be routed. I have something here. It's a USB 2 to SATA connector. I've used this to avoid adding more cables to a power supply. You connect this to an internal USB 2 port and you get a 5-volt SATA power connector. I don't believe this will be able to power the 3 fans, but this will be enough to be able to control the RGB hub. Let's try this on anyway. Nope. Well, I figured as much. The fans are 12 volts, and there are 3 of them. 5 volts from a USB 2 port wasn't going to work. Give me a moment, and I will connect the fans to the motherboard. Ryzen 7900 Non-X is being maxed out with about 70 degrees Celsius. This result is expected with this many fans and a case of this size. With a gaming test, the result is a bit more interesting. With cores being able to push higher, the CPU temperature stays at around 79 degrees Celsius. The GPU temperature is at around 71 degrees Celsius. Both are not bad for a case of this size. With the way the window is set up, you may not actually need cable management, since most of your cables are hidden behind the mesh part of the side panel. If this was an intentional move from Jonsbo, it is a nice one. The GPU limit the original C6 has is now gone, although I don't think you will be able to install those monstrous GPUs, like 5080 and 90. Now personally, if you have access to Jonsbo Z20 or D32, I urge you to choose those instead of this. If you must have a handle, then Z20. If not, D32 is my take on it. The reason is that C6 Max carries all the limitations of C6 original. 1 is the lack of cable management. 2 is that the mesh holes are a bit too tiny to be effective. I say this because I can barely feel any air movement from the top, but when I open the lid, I can clearly feel how much air the pair of 92mm fans move. In other words, the mesh panels are not very effective. Finally, there is the price. It is more expensive than original C6, but cheaper than Z20. The price increase is somewhat justified in the fact that it is bigger, thus requires more material to construct. But then D32 is cheaper, so the logic is somewhat iffy. Anyway, the bottom line is that I do not recommend C6 Max because there are better and cheaper choices. Thank you for watching.